Yeah, exactly.
Okay, but I'm going to
Yeah,
pause it.
so much. I'm really grateful. Thank you so much, and thanks everyone for joining us live on Zoom, and they're still going to be joining us later on. So I also want to say thank you to our speaker for accepting our invitation. It's a great privilege to have someone with 40 years experience to actually impact us with our knowledge and wisdom. So thank you so much. So she's going to start now, and then after that, we're going to have those questions asked, and then we straight up. So we don't take so much of our time. So we want to brief it and make it easy for everyone to actually watch this. Thank you so much. Okay, it begins now.
Okay, so I'm just going to talk about what's new in leadership, or what's the trends, what's really important. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay. You know, it for me, it's a really exciting time because I've been teaching leadership. Yeah, for what, 40 years? It's almost like, oh, I don't even want to say that. But I know we've been teaching the same things, but leaders don't always do it. And I say what we always wanted our leaders to do and to be, they're now being forced to. So
Hmm.
because they didn't do it before, now they're being forced to because of the changes that have gone on, both in the workplace and in the world.
Hmm.
So what are these new competencies? Again, I think it's a great time for humanity in looking
Hmm.
at the competencies are more about around connection and how important that is than just performance. That it's the connection and people feeling valued and heard and seen that they will then perform better and get the results. So um, the question is always for leaders to be looking at what lights people up. What is it that excites them enough that they want to do better? They want to do their best at work. Otherwise, they're just coming in and doing whatever it is they do, and they don't feel very good about it. So leaders always have to be asking this: what lights my people up? And in a lot of cases, it could be different for different people. You know, my last job, I had these three women. I inherited a department, and when I met each of them, I asked them, "How can I help you in your career, in your future?" And all three of them had something different. You know, the first
Hmm.
one was very embarrassed. She says, "I want to be a supervisor." I said, "Well, great. I'm happy to help you be a supervisor, but why don't you go out and talk to people and find out what they did? Because I'm fairly new to this company too." So she did. The second person wanted to learn the new computer system so she could create new forms. I'm like, well, okay. Go find out what classes there are, and we'll work it into your schedule. And the third person, when I asked her what she wanted, how she wanted to develop herself, she looks up at the sky and she looks down, and she starts to cry, because she says, nobody's ever asked me that question.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, and that's bad that she'd worked there like 13 years and no leader said,
Wow.
what do you want? How can I help you? And it's simple as that. If you just say to people, what do you want for yourself in your life and how can I help you? What a difference that makes when
Hmm.
leaders say that. And people are starting to expect this more in this evolving world, that my leader really listens to me and wants to help me develop and grow. So, well, when we look at what's been changing in leadership, there's this professor who wrote this book, The Art of Action, and he said there's this trinity of that of what managers do. And for years, managers always thought, I have to run everything. I'm in charge. Here's the vision. You do this. You do this. You do that. And when you ask them, what are you most proud of, they would tell you what they did. Well, what I did this year, and they use the word I. And it's
Hmm.
interesting when I do this exercise live with leaders, And I'm like, what are you most proud of? And they'll say, I did this, I did that. But it's got to shift. And it's starting to shift in a lot of places where leaders will say, well, I helped my team to
Wow.
to perform. Okay, so with my help and guidance, we did this together. But here's the thing, this is where it needs to shift to. They did it without me. That I inspired these smart people, that I didn't have to be there all the time. They performed well without me. And the way you do this is to take on coaching, a coaching approach to conversations, to be curious, to listen to people. And if all leaders do that and you create a coaching culture, it's amazing the increase in performance and productivity and results. So the International Coach Federation has been measuring this, and companies with coaching cultures far exceed results than those that don't. And you know, leaders don't have to be a coach, but just to really learn how to really pay attention, to care when they listen, to be curious, to understand the person's perspective, and to help them grow. And if all leaders do that, the company will succeed at a much higher rate than leaders who think that they're the ones that have to tell people what to do because that's the rank they earned. That's old style leadership, and it just doesn't go anymore. But the Human Capital Institute a couple of years ago went out and did a study and asked people, what is it you want from your leaders? But then they asked leaders, what is it you think you need to develop? And leaders were still saying, well, I need to be more agile and I need to problem solve. Yeah, and I need communication skills, but more about what do I say, not how I listen. But employees are asking for coaching skills. They're actually using the word coaching. We want you to coach us. We want you to have empathy. We want you to understand us at an emotional level. And these are the skills now, for new leaders. This is what we want to develop. Um, so there has to be a value shift. The thing is, I always ask companies, what do you base your promotions on? And it's still so much on good results, but people who get good results don't necessarily make good leaders. Your high,
Wow.
yeah, your high achievers are like, oh, I like to show off how good I am, and that doesn't make for a good leader. So there has to be a value shift into, I like people, and I say, please don't promote anyone who doesn't like people. They're not going to make good leaders. Mm.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
So
Wow.
coaching in organizations, even the word coaching is still misunderstood. They still think it's performance based. But what it truly is personal connection and professional development. That I, as a leader, am your partner. And that made the difference. My boss, my teams always did really well. And my boss said, well, you're their friend. I'm like, I'm not their friend. I don't ask them to dinner, but I treat them as a partner. I'm there to help them learn and grow, and we get results together. And I had a really good team. So performance is just tactical, but partnership is strategic. And if I do that, performance is going to go up anyway. It's going to go up anyway. And so leaders have to trust that, because otherwise people resist them. When I'm told what to do, I'll do it, but I'm not happy. And not happy means I don't do my best. It's a simple formula. But if you listen to me and you care, you value me, then I will work with you to make the changes that are necessary. And it's not just, it used to be when I worked in companies, they're like, oh, they look at me as like, yeah, that touchy feely stuff. Well, now it's necessary. Now it's necessary. Mm. So, yeah. So, mentoring and coaching. Mentoring is still more about telling people, but you tell them to help them grow, not to force them to perform. And this, especially, we're dealing with a lot of remote connecting, you know, by Zoom. And so we really have to listen to people and pay attention, or they're just going to check out. We have to engage them. So, the leader as commander or mentor, they give information, they provide answers, they share experience, but this pacifies the brain. And I remember saying this, and I had this young leader say to me, but I have to prove what I know or people won't respect me.
Hmm.
And I said, if you do that, you're going to push people away. The best
Wow.
way for you to be respected is for you to respect them,
Hmm.
and they'll reciprocate. They'll reciprocate. But when you tell people what to do, their brains shut down. They don't have to work. And a lot of people will become dependent on that. It's like, well, just tell me what to do and I'll go do it. And that means they can't think for themselves. And then you have a whole workforce that can't think for themselves, you
Wow.
know. But if you ask questions, you help them think things through. What would you do? What are you thinking about? What's the risk? Ask them so they think. That activates their brains and it
Hmm.
rewires things. And so they can think through problems by themselves in the future. And that's what you want, because you don't want them walking into your office all the time and say, tell me what to do, because you have things to do too. So get them to think better for themselves. That's the greatest thing. So it's not that you don't want to give them a vision, a mission, goals, and feedback. Yeah, this is still important. And you want to mentor and share your experience and the lessons you've learned. But again, you're pacifying your brains. It just prompts acceptance and compliance, and maybe even resistance. But when you ask questions, when you try to understand their perspective and align it with yours, um, and help them think, you're expanding their thinking. So, yes, you're going
Wow.
to wear all these hats, but don't forget how important coaching is to you
Hmm.
as a leader. Um, because here's what it looks like. As I start asking you questions about how do you see this, like when somebody says to me, I'm a new leader, so I don't know what to do, I say, okay, maybe you are, but have you ever worked for a leader? Yes.
Hmm.
Well, what did you like? What did you hate? Okay, so how can you be that leader and do the things you liked? You see, people know. They're just afraid to
Wow.
do. They're afraid to be judged. So ask people what they think, because it expands their mind. How I see myself, what I'm capable of, and how I see the world. And we call this insight based learning, where I have aha moments. It's like, oh, I can do this. I can step in, and if I make a mistake or two, that's okay. That's insight based learning. That's what we want to create. Um, and we create transformation where people think better for themselves, they discover what to do.
Wow.
And when you do this, they develop the courage to move forward and they appreciate you. When you think about the best leaders in your life, they always believed in you and helped you grow, right?
Hmm.
So be that leader. So when somebody asks you who is your best leader, that it's you they name. It's you they name. Whoops. So just to tell you, I mean, this was really eye-opening for me, even teaching leadership all these years. I was saying, yeah, you have to listen. But I never had the word partner till I became a coach.
Hmm.
And the thing about being your partner, your thinking partner as a leader, is I have to believe in you that you are creative, resourceful. You're not broken. You're not inadequate. You don't need me to fix you, make you better. I just need to help you to see better.
Wow.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? And how much
But
if you work for me, are going to be happy if I treat you as your whole person who knows things. It's simple as that. So coaching develops their minds, and this allows them to spend more time on getting results than just focusing on the problems they can't fix. So here's the questions you need to ask yourself when you're dealing with someone, and you're not going to coach all the time, but just ask, does this person have some knowledge and experience to build on? And if they do, then you want to coach them and not mentor or tell them what to do. Ask them what they think. What have they thought through? What are they afraid of trying? What are they capable of that maybe they don't even see for themselves? So can you respect them? Can you hold them in high regard? And remember that they are capable, that maybe they just haven't, they need more experience. And they need more experience than advice. So this is where you start. You're always asking what's getting in the way of this smart person from seeing a way forward on their own. And that's where we start in coaching. So here's an exercise for you to go do. Um,
okay.
Not now, but but you can, and I'll send you, um, a PDF of these slides if you like. But here's what I
Very
want you
good.
all the people listening to this, I want you to practice the next conversation, or set aside time with a colleague, that just for even just 5 minutes, see if you can just listen to them without judgment,
Wow.
appreciate, just, wherever they are is wherever they are. Wherever they are in their journey is just wherever they are. So don't judge them. Don't try to make them better. Just appreciate their experience. Summarize what you hear to let them know that you hear them. And then ask them what they mean by their words, and why, what's making them afraid, or why do they assume the worst is going to happen. Just ask some questions to explain what they're thinking. So summarize and ask questions. Summarize and ask questions. So listen without judgment. Just appreciate where they are in their journey. Summarize what you hear and ask some questions to understand. Try that for 5 minutes and see what happens. It's amazing. And don't be afraid to be wrong. So when you summarize, you could be wrong, they'll tell you, and then they'll think better. It's a good
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, it's a good thing. So give up knowing everything. Be curious and believe in their potential, that they're creative, resourceful, and whole. Okay? So, to be a good coach, here's your skills. Here's your skill list. You need to develop presence. How can I be fully present, out of my head, thinking about other things? Put it all
Hmm.
aside and be fully present with the person. Um, how can I keep a focus on what do we want to create here? What is it you want to do, as an end result? We always keep our focus on the end result. We listen for what's getting in the way, um, that that they're afraid to move forward. So we summarize, we ask questions, and then just ask them, so what are you willing to try? What's the next step? When are you going to do that? How can I support you? These are essential coaching skills. Again, you don't have to be a coach, you can just practice these skills. But then you also want to work on the skills of emotional intelligence. Um, One of the first places I taught emotional intelligence 20 years ago was in Kenya.
Wow.
And it was so fun because everybody was so curious and wanted to learn, and we had such a good time. So whatever you can do to learn more about emotional intelligence, read books, look online, lots of stuff. Learn how to delegate,
Mm.
and trust people that they could do the job. And if they make a few mistakes, that's okay. You're going to help them. You're going to help them. So learn how to delegate and how to trust people. And then anything you can do these days that will help you lead teams, because a lot of work is getting done in teams these days, not just by individuals, which is a good thing. But teams are tough, because people are different, and sometimes they get along and sometimes they don't. So learn how to be a good team leader. That's an essential skill. So these are essential skills in addition to coaching skills that you want to develop. Um, and then always look to your own barriers of leadership. Um, the feeling always that you have to tell people what to do. No, you don't. It's
Mm.
like when I coach, I often, when they say something, I'm like, oh yeah, I know that, and I know what I could tell them, but I don't, because
Mm.
it's disempowering if I'm always
Wow.
telling them what to do. Right. I want to trust they're smart. If I ask them some good questions, they'll figure it out. And you want to be careful of the constant distractions so you aren't present. You got to learn to be present. I always say people want you to be present more than perfect.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah. Be present. Don't develop a culture of fear. That's old style leadership. People don't perform their best under fear. It shuts down the brain from working because they're afraid. So you don't want people to be afraid. You want them to be inspired. And
Mm.
thinking you coach already just because you listen to people. So I know leaders that said, well, I listen to them and then I tell them what to do. That's not coaching. That's not coaching. So think about that. So coaching is not just a skill, it's a way of connecting with people, it's a way of
Wow.
engaging them through powerful conversations. That can happen anywhere. It can happen in the hallway, they can happen at the grocery store, but that connection that we make with people and how we listen and inspire them because we believe in them makes such a difference. Such a difference.
Wow.
And
Wow.
if all leaders do that, then we create coaching cultures, which get the best performance. At least, the results of the surveys show at least a third better performance in companies with coaching cultures than companies
Wow.
without. So, yeah, I've been teaching how to create and consulting on coaching cultures around the world now, with many companies who are realizing that this is critical. This is critical stuff. So, coaching isn't just a skill, it's a way of being and leading with people. You can find out lots more stuff on my website, Outsmart Your Brain, or Co-Visioning is kind of one. But you can go here. That I have a blog. I have resources that you can download for free. Um, lots of stuff to help you, because we all need good leaders everywhere in this crazy world we're living in right now. And it's
Yeah.
unfortunately dangerous in so many places, and it's a sad thing. It's a
Mm.
sad thing. So we need you to go out and inspire people to learn these things so we can do this together and turn this world back around.
Wow. Wow.
Okay. So with that, I'm going to open it up to you with questions.
Wow. Wow. I think I need to clap. I need to touch for clap. Thank you so much. Thank you so, so much. This
Mhm.
really, I don't know, listening to you, it was like you answered most of the questions that were meant to be asked.
I
Like
told you.
you answered
I said,
everything.
let me present because I'll probably answer your questions.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. But there's a question which I feel that it's a question that every young leader would actually want to actually ask, and which is how do we how do we get to um I would like be a better leader when we feel when we have a feeling of inadequacy. So
Yeah.
an example is I'm meant to help a leader, and then I feel a sense of inadequacy in me, but I know that I can help this leader coming up. But there's this feeling of inadequacy. How do we get to manage that feeling and that vacuum?
So when you say inadequate, um, tell me a little bit more. Like
Okay.
inadequate, that they're going to judge you or that you're not going to do it right.
Okay, so inadequacy in the sense that, okay, you probably know what you want to say, but do not have conviction in what you think you know. You probably know what to do, but you don't have the confidence to feel like you can do it. At the same time, somehow you feel like it is too big for you to actually become like a leader, to talk to someone or coach someone, or
Mm-hmm.
it's better to listen to someone.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's two different things. Feeling that not as confident as a leader is different than feeling not that confident to be a coach.
Wow.
Okay, so I teach for coaching schools in not just the United States, but in the Philippines, in Russia, in China, and like I'm going to Malaysia in 2 weeks uh, to uh, teach coaching skills to leaders there. And we're never, whenever we're trying something new, we're never fully confident. We just do it anyway. So I always say, what's the first step that you can take? Knowing that courage means that you act in when you have fear, not that you act without fear.
Wow.
If
Wow.
you act without fear, it's not courage. You're
Wow.
just bold. Um, but courage is acting in the face of fear. And what's
Wow.
the worst that can happen? So, in coaching, if I say something and it's wrong, they'll tell me, and that's okay because we're just having a conversation. I'm not telling you what to do, I'm just being curious and asking you what you think. And
Hmm.
so, it was amazing. In my first coaching class, where I was learning how to be a coach, um, it was the owner of the coaching school who actually started the International Coach Federation. His name was Thomas Leonard. And he said, the only way you can learn how to be a coach is to go coach. And we were like, how can we coach? This is our first school class. We don't know what we're doing. And he said, just go love them.
Wow.
Just go love them. And you're going to create a safe space. They'll feel comfortable. They'll talk to you. They'll be willing to be vulnerable because they know that you care, that people need a safe space to talk and they don't get it from anyone else. So just create the safe space. And then as you learn coaching skills, you'll get better. Okay, that was 27 years ago, 28 years ago. And I think I'm a pretty good coach now, but because I started then practicing just caring. And when I go back to my testimonials, I'm like, all these people thought I was an awesome coach when I didn't even know what I was doing, you know? But I listened, I cared, and I just, was curious. So trust that you will learn as you do it, that it's not going to take years of you getting better. Again, they need you to be present more than they need you to be perfect.
Hmm.
But the same goes for leaders. If you're afraid that people will judge you as inadequate, then often you compensate by telling them how smart you are and telling them what to do, and then they think you're an inadequate leader anyway. Because
Wow.
you're not listening and you're not caring about them. So, it's okay to say, I don't know. Let's discover together. It's okay to say that. In fact, people might say, well, that's weird. But then they realize, yeah, I can help you do this. They're not going to judge you for that. So, or if they do, they're going to judge you well. you know.
Wow.
So, yeah. Does that help?
Okay. Yeah, very well. Very good. Very good. So,
I
the
think
last
somebody
question.
I think somebody had
Okay.
a question in the chat.
Yeah. So, okay. I think
Okay.
she hacked the question about
Okay.
how do an upcoming leader manages his or her leadership skill. I think I think you answered that indirectly.
Okay. All right. So you had another question?
Yeah. So the other question is this. The other question is the last question we ask every other speaker who comes to speak, and it's a question that we're trying to change the mindset of young leaders globally and as well in Africa as well. And we see there's a big deficiency and a very big gap between what true leadership is and what we feel leadership is and what we think it is really. So the question I want to ask you is this: you've had what experience in the field of coaching and leadership. In few words, what advice would you give a young leader? In few words, what would you say leadership truly is and the skills a leader should actually develop? In few words.
Um, it's hard for me not to come back with a question. I always say, think about the leaders that you've appreciated in your life. What did they do? What did they do? And so it's really about believing in people, listening to them, and remember that leadership is different than managing.
Mm.
So creating trust and helping people to believe in themselves. Because you can be a leader anywhere. You don't have to have a title.
Mm.
So again, think about the leaders that you've appreciated and what did you like? What did you like about what they did? And take that on. It's interesting. I often, when I teach, I say, okay, think about the person who really changed your life. In all your life. It could have been a parent, it could have been a teacher, a sports coach. And I'm like, I ask that question. So what did they do that made the difference? And it's interesting. It's always they believed in me. They were willing to challenge me, even though I may make mistakes. They listened to me, and they believed in my potential. And that's what you need to do as a leader. Yeah.
Wow, wow, wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm really, really grateful. Really, really grateful for this. Giving us this few time of yours. I'm honestly grateful for this. And then we hope to have a sort of like last session with you so that we could actually come back to actually teach, sort of give results for what you've actually said. Now, thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome.
Okay, so we're gonna let her go right now so that we won't take much of our time. And thanks everyone for joining. And yeah, so but let's just say thank you. I think we have one person right now. Let's just say thank you to her for accepting to speak to us. Let's just say thank you.
Thank you for accepting to speak with us.
You're welcome. You're so welcome. I wish the best for you. Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank you so
ma'am.
thank you
Okay.
so much. Okay, ma. So we're
Okay.
gonna let you go now.
Okay. So I'm going to turn off